Hey guys, Zack here, and welcome back to another action figure review, and today we'll be taking a look at the Bandai movie monster series Moguera. Now, Moguera originally came from the movie from the 50s or 60s. I don't remember exactly when that movie came out, but that movie known as The Mysterians, where I believe Moguera was a bad guy. I'm not 100% sure. I know nothing about the Mysterians. I don't even know what people's general opinions are on that movie, so I personally couldn't tell you, but I do know that Moguera was repurposed for 1994 in the movie Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. And I always find it fascinating to see Toho reuse monsters who start off as their, own monsters in their own movies to being a part of the Godzilla franchise. Monsters like Rodan and Mothra, Baragon and Varan. They appeared in their own movies before they were a part of the Godzilla franchise, which is something that has always been pretty fascinating to me. So, yeah. Space Godzilla, or Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla, I should say, is a movie that I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of. I used to like it a lot when I was a kid, but as I got older, I realized that Space Godzilla is not my cup of tea. To me, it's just Godzilla, but with crystals on his shoulders, and that's pretty much it. Not really a big fan of Space Godzilla as a whole, though I will say this, I'm not too against Moguera. She's not my favorite robot in the Godzilla franchise, but she is definitely, not bad at all. And notice how I say she. And the reason why I say she to refer to Moguera, well, you can thank Monster Island Buddies for that, but anyway, I digress. Before we take a look at Moguera herself, we'll take a look at her tag. And the tag is very nice. Unfortunately, mine is in very rough shape because of the way Moguera was shipped to my house. So, yeah, that is very unfortunate, but it's still in alright shape, so it's not the end of the world. But anyway, the front of the card here has a screenshot from Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. The Godzilla 65th anniversary logo right here, which for some reason wasn't on the 1954 Bandai Movie Monster Series figures tag, which I don't really get, but, whatever. Came out the same year as Moguera here, but whatever. We have another Godzilla emblem right here, Moguera, and some Japanese writing. On the back, we have Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla, Movie Monster Series, more Japanese writing, legal information, and Bandai. On the inside, we have some more Japanese writing, as well as a silhouette of Moguera. So, yeah. And for some reason, I'm just noticing this now. Instead of having an emblem for Moguera here, they just have an emblem for Godzilla, which I don't necessarily get, but that's whatever, I guess. So, moving on. Anyway, for Moguera herself, we'll take a look at the painting first. And the painting on this figure is actually very nice for a Bandai Movie Monster Series figure. A lot of the newer ones, the paint jobs are never really as good as the older ones that came out in the early 2000s, late 90s, but here the painting is actually very good. So most of the body here is a metallic silver, which does look very nice, and a metallic shade of blue for, the rest of the body here, which again, looks very nice. Fortunately, there is a paint blemish here, but the overall paint job still looks very nice. Her hand things, whatever you want to call these, blasters, because these things do shoot rockets, so you can call these whatever you want, but these are painted a very dark metallic blue, which I'm having a bit of a Mandela effect here. When I was a kid, I always thought that these are just painted black, but after doing a little bit of research, apparently not. Apparently this whole time these have always been a metallic dark shade of blue, which is very surprising to me. So I guess I was wrong for most of my life, I guess, and I guess I was wrong about calling the Bernstein Bears by that instead of the Bernstein Bears, but that's a completely different thing. And also, when I was younger, I also thought the drill nose thing right here, I always thought that this was just painted silver, like the rest of the body, but no, this is painted blue as well, so yeah. Which isn't really painted all the way, unfortunately, but again, a nice shade of blue nonetheless. Her eyes are painted yellow, and her forehead has a little red thing right there. I don't know what that is, so yeah. And that's pretty much it for the painting on this figure. And once again, for a Bandai Movie Monster Series figure, one of today's standards, the painting here is not bad at all. Usually when I think of Bandai Movie Monster Series figures, I think of the lackluster paint jobs like the one for the new Destroya that came out last year, and even Biolante, the one that came out last year. That thing, the paint job wasn't awful, but it wasn't really stellar. Here, it's not like, you know, SH Monster Arts quality, or even X Plus quality for that matter. Well, this would be one cheap X Plus, but like, the painting here still looks very nice, so I'd say the painting on this figure definitely gets a pass. Now I'll take a look at the articulation, and the articulation on this figure, unfortunately, is very lackluster. So basically, the arms can move 360, and that's it. The waist can't twist or anything like that, neither can the head. It's just a solid piece like this, which is very unfortunate. You know, it's not really new when it comes to, like, the Bandai Movie Monster Series figures. Usually these are just simple, like, you know, not a lot of articulation, but I feel like more than just the arms, I feel like would have been much appreciated. But, yeah. The lack of articulation is not the worst thing in the world, considering that this is a Bandai vinyl, but again, it is very lackluster considering, because we've gotten other Bandai vinyls that have pretty good articulation, or at least for what they are. At least, you know, the legs and head and even the tail sometimes moves, but here it's just the arms, and yeah, a little lackluster, but not the end of the world, I guess. So I guess the articulation here, I'd say gets a half a pass. I would give it less, but honestly, the lack of articulation is nothing new when it comes to a Bandai Movie Monster Series figure, so again, it's not the worst thing ever, but more articulation definitely would have helped. So the articulation, I'd say, gets a half a pass. Now I'll take a look at the sculpt, and the sculpting on this figure, I think, is very good. I think the sculpting looks very spot on to how she looked in Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. Everything here looks great. I think the tail, I feel like, should be a little more like so, instead of just like pointing at the ground, but that's just a minor nitpick. The rest of the sculpting here, I think, is very spot on, very fantastic, and yeah, for what it is, I think it looks great. So the sculpting here gets a pass. Now I'll take a look at the detailing, and the detailing on this figure, again, really good. So taking a look at the head here, we can see all the mechanical paneling and the mechanical detailing. Everything here is detailed very nicely, pretty well defined. And the metallic detailing on the body as well looks great. The arms have a fair bit of robotic-like detailing as well, which again looks very nice, very well defined, and yeah, it looks good. And the front of the body is detailed very nicely as well. All of the panels, again, very nicely defined. Everything here looks very, like, robotic, and I like that. So the detailing on the tail here, once again, looks good. The thruster here isn't really the best, but it's not the end of the world, but the detailing underneath looks alright. The detailing on the back is also pretty good. These saw-like things aren't really the best, but they still look nice. And that is pretty much it for the detailing on this figure. Again, the detailing, just like with the sculpting, is very nice. All the paneling and everything, the detailing here is good. And, you know, again, for a Bandai Movie Monster Series figure, it looks great. It's nothing as detailed as, let's say, an X Plus, or I don't have any X Plus figures, but I've seen some in person, and let me tell you, the detailing on those figures look exquisite. So, yeah, the detailing here, it's not the best thing in the world, but, you know, for what it is, I think it's still very nice. So the detailing here, I'd say gets a pass. So, at the end of the day, should you get this? I'd say yes. This is a very nice figure. The sculpting, the painting, the detailing, everything here is great. The only thing that this figure is lacking would be articulation. I feel like more articulation definitely would have done this figure better, but this is overall a very good figure, and I'd recommend getting this either if you're, you know, if you like the Bandai vinyls like me, and like you want to focus on collecting them instead of the usual NECAs and SH Monster Arts figures, which I have a few of those. Well, I have most of the NECA figures, but in terms of SH Monster Arts figures, I only have like 5, I want to say, 5 or 6. So I'm not really like when I collect Godzilla figures, I'm more focused on the Bandai Movie Monster Series figures. So yeah, these are like the main things I collect. So if you're like me and you collect the Bandai Movie Monster Series figures, then I'd say that this figure is definitely one you should pick up. Again, this is a great figure. This should only cost you on Amazon like between 20 to 25 bucks, which is honestly not bad at all for what you're paying for. So Yeah. Either way, get this figure if you can, and if you want to know how big she is, then here she is next to Dr. Billy Grant. Alright. Now, that is it for today. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you in the next video. Peace, Zack out.